Hi folks, Gabe here with Backwoods Pursuit, and today we're going to take a deep dive into the Initial Ascent IA5K pack and how it's performed for me over the last 3 years of using Initial Ascent packs. The last year I've used this new IA5K and I've packed out a bunch of animals with Initial Ascent packs. I want to bring you my in-field experience, things I observed while using them over the last 3 years, things I liked and didn't like, a few things I would change, and the things that this does phenomenally well. I'm going to go over all of that. I'll drop a link to the Initial Ascent IA5K down in the description if you want to go check it out for yourself, and a link to our website, backwoodspursuit.com. We have a ton of gear reviews over there. Let's get started. To get started, let's take a look at some of the specs and details of the IA5K before we get into performance. The total volume of the pack here is 5,200 cubic inches, the lid being 525 cubic inches, and the bag 4,675 cubic inches. So you get more than the advertised volume, which is nice. Also comes in a 3K and an 8K option. Depending on what size you need, is going to cover just about everything you might need. Now, as far as weight, the full setup here, there's obviously a lot of ways you can set up a backpack, but the weight that I took is with everything on here that I have, all the accessories, and I'll go over what those are real quick. But I came up with 125 ounces, 7.8 pounds. With this way I have it set up here, obviously you can shave some weight off of that if you pull some of the accessories off. So what I have here is the gun holder, just came back from a rifle hunt and used that. Also have the Nalgene holder here, have an ivory holster put on the side there. On this side of the pack we have the large hip belt pouch, which is nice. They do have a smaller one also. Additionally, of course you get the lid and the bag included with the purchase. And then underneath the frame here, or attached to the frame, you have the pannier load carrier. So all of that combined comes in at that weight that I gave you of the 125 ounces or 7.8 pounds. Now, if you're looking to shave some weight, certainly you can take some of those accessories off. You don't need all of that necessarily, but for the hunt that I just came back from, that was a good setup for what I needed it for on that specific trip. Now, as far as the bag design here, I really like the way Initial Ascent designed this bag. On the outside of the main bag here, you have an opening, a U-shaped opening on the top here. That is a full-length pocket. It's great for things like, say, a sitting pad or your puffy jacket. But I also like to put my first aid kit on the outside here, so it's real easy to get to. In the event of an emergency, I need to get to it really quick, and I don't have to dig through the main compartment of the bag. And that is a stretchy pocket, so it is easily something you can get into and use for things like clothing and whatnot. Now, the main bag I really like as well, and they have a very large U-shaped zipper here. It's something that makes packing up your camp really easily, so you can access everything in your pack really easily. You've also got a nice big pocket here on the inside. You can put any of your gear, like say toilet paper or something like that is what I like to put in there if you need to, but it makes it really easy to access. You don't have to unzip the whole thing. You can just unzip it part of the way and access that pocket really easily. Now, on the top of the bag here, you have a roll top, which is nice. I prefer a roll top whenever I can get one over a snow collar. It does work well. And then you have a compression strap on the top here. So once you get all of your stuff in there, you can utilize that to compress the top of the load, which really does help if you have a very large load. So something to take advantage of. Now, as far as pockets here, on the side here, you have a real small pocket that is designed to be a place where you put your tripod legs and then strap the top of the tripod using the compression strap. And then on this side, you have a full-length pocket here for, say, your spotting scope or tripod, whatever you want to put in here, but it is a full-length covered pocket with a snow collar. And then you have a stretchy pocket on the outside of that for, I like to put my headlamp and those sorts of things that I might need to access quickly, maybe a pair of gloves. But you have both of those on this as far as side pockets. Now, a couple of functionality notes here. I'd really like on this lid, you have a nice big open zipper here, and it's a center zipper. I do prefer that in a lid because that allows you to not have things fall out of your pack when you're going to open that. So you lay your pack down on the ground like that, and the lid or the zipper here is right on top of it. So all of your contents are not going to fall out if you have, say, the zipper down here or even on the top. Sometimes they can fall out the top of the lid there. So I really like the design of where that lid zipper is right there in the center. One thing that I would certainly recommend is their pannier load carrier. It allows the bag in the pack to be a lot more versatile overall. It's what's used when you get an animal down and you're going to be packing heavy loads, but it also can be used as a day pack. You can take the bag off here and then allow yourself to just use it in day pack mode and not have to carry all of your gear around. A little pocket on the outside of it here that allows you to put some of your gear in and allows the lid to be attached as well. But another thing I really wanted to make a highlight here of is their lumbar support. It is fantastic. I found that I really prefer a large lumbar support like this one. Packs that don't have much of a lumbar pad don't tend to fit me as well, and this one has a very large one, so it has really been the right fit for me. It's something you have to experiment with for yourself. Some people prefer less, or some people prefer more as far as lumbar pad size, but it is certainly on the one of the larger ones that I've ever used. But it fits me really, really well, and it allows you to carry those heavier loads without having contact with the frame and still providing you that nice cushion support. Now, one of the most unique things about Initial Ascent packs is in their frame design. I'm going to pull the bag off here and show you the frame, but to get to the frame here and to get to load hauling mode, you just had to detach the 4 compression straps, 2 on the top, 2 on the bottom. And now one step you don't want to forget that makes this a whole lot easier is to go ahead and loosen the straps here on the bottom, the part that attach to the bottom of the frame. That's going to allow us to lift the bag over the frame a lot easier. So once we do that, I'm going to take our load lifters here and then slide them through the openings, through the slot there. And that's going to allow us to then grab the bag here and pull it up over the ears and open up the bag here to access the frame, to load hauling mode. And then this here is the pannier. This is one of the accessories that I would certainly recommend getting. It gives you a lot of options, a lot of functionality here. It does add a little bit of weight, of course, but it gives you a lot of functionality. You have a pocket on the outside of the pannier, and then you have a lot of ways to strap the lid if you want to go into a day pack mode, if you want to completely remove the bag, fold the lid over here, and then hit the hills with just the bag, the lid there, and the pannier bag. You're able to use this in day pack mode, save some weight, and only take what you need into the field. Now the frame here is where you can really see some of the differences and unique aspects of the Initial Ascent packs here. You've got a solid sheet of carbon here, and you've got the curvature here for your back, so it's going to really fit well to your back. That's been my experience. It's fit very, very well and allowed for a lot of airflow, which is really critical on, especially on warmer hunts, but you always want to avoid as much back sweat as possible if you're hiking hard or packing out, especially if it's cold out, and so you can get chilled really easily. So it allows for a lot of ventilation, better than any other ventilation of any pack that I've tried, so that's really, really impressed me. Now you have, even though the center of this is quite narrow, which is nice, you do have these ears, if you want to call them that stand out and allow you more ability to load a wider load or a heavier load and have extra stability with this frame. That's been my experience. I loaded 2 hindquarters of a nice sized bull onto this and was able to do so very, very easily, and the load was extremely stable. It carried very, very well. That load weighed out at 148 pounds, and it was phenomenal. It did an excellent job, no complaints whatsoever. You do have, interestingly enough as well here, you've probably seen some of the videos if you followed Initial Ascent much. These ears right here can be used either for a rifle sling or to sling your rifle on if you want to carry a rifle in that way, which I have used quite a bit, and it is very nice to keep the weight of the rifle off of your shoulder. The other thing you can do with these is you can hook the hind leg of an animal like an elk or a deer onto these and have that extra weight be at your side, so it keeps that weight close to your body. That's not a functionality that I have personally used yet, but I've seen them utilize that and demonstrate that in a number of ways, and it's an interesting and intriguing way to carry an animal, not something you see with other packs on the market. So it gives you that flexibility and that versatility in how you want to pack out if you have a super heavy load. All right, now putting this pack back together, I want to take a quick second here to emphasize a point that something that I've done incorrectly a number of times, and it's caused me a little bit of grief. So when you're putting this the bag back over the top here, very simple, very easy to do there. One important step that you'll find out if you stand up with a heavy load is to make sure you reattach the load lifters. Simple as that sounds, it's easy to forget to do that. And again, you don't really notice it until you go to stand up. I believe I did that with that super heavy load with those 2 hindquarters of the bull. I stood up and then realized, I could tell the load was swaying way more than it should, and then realized that I had forgotten to attach these. So you always want to make sure you do that. It's very easy to do, but easy to forget. So don't forget to do that, or you will not like the way that it rides. It'll sway all over the place because you won't have load lifters attached to the frame. So that's one takeaway, one note that I want to make sure that you remember to do when you are packing a heavy load. Now a few notes on accessories before we get into performance here. I liked all of the accessories that I used here with Initial Ascent. I was able to use that. The ivory holsters, that's not necessarily designed for this pack, but it worked. It was a little tight because I had the small hip belt here. The medium and the large, it fits a lot better, but the space between the buckles here made it a little bit tight, but I was able to get that to work. Water bottle is great, especially for late season hunts when you don't necessarily want to use a bladder, and the hose on the water bladder is going to freeze on you. So having an Nalgene holder on one or both sides is fantastic. I do wish the fit was a little bit more snug. It didn't cause any problems or anything, but I wish the fit was slightly more snug there. As far as over on this side, you have your hip belt options. This one is the smaller hip belt pouch. This one is the larger. As you can see, one thing that's unique about these, and you may love it or you may not, is that the larger one is larger vertically, not width-wise. Whereas you can see this one here next to it is just a similar width, maybe a little bit wider, but not as deep. So interestingly enough, a standard cell phone will not fit in the smaller one. So if you like to stick your cell phone in the hip belt pouch, the small one's going to be a little too small. The long one here vertically, though, will fit it, but not horizontally, whereas a lot of your other hip belt pouches are wide enough to slide a cell phone in the long way there. So it's kind of a unique design there. It is nice and deep, so you can fit a lot in there. But depending on what you want to use that for, you may or may not like that design. Now, one unique thing regarding the accessories of the Initial Ascent is that the lid on the underneath side here has a compartment to carry a 2-liter water bladder, which can be really nice if you don't want to mess with having your water bladder down here by your bag or taking up space or volume out of your pack. It has a Velcroed pocket right on the back here. Slide your 2-liter bladder in. Now, it does add, of course, a lot of weight to the lid. There's been a few times where I've forgotten to strap my lid, go pick up my bag, and the weight of that lid just smacks me in the back of the head. Again, that's user error, but that is, again, something you have to make sure that you are doing, making sure that you attach that lid and strap it down. Otherwise, it'll especially with that extra weight of the water bladder in there. The nice thing about it, though, is if you don't like that or you don't prefer that, you, of course, have the ability to use the Nalgene water bottle, or if you pick up the pannier, you can slide the pannier up to a 3-liter bladder or more between the frame and the bag. Keeps the water away from the interior of your bag, but it does push the bag out a little bit, so be aware of that. I've used it both ways. If you do use it in the pannier, I would suggest a quick release so you can refill your bladder through your hose, because you don't want to have to take the pack all the way apart just to refill your bladder every day. So that can be an inconvenience. Just use that quick release on your bladder hose and you'll be good to go there. Now, as far as attaching your rifle to the Initial Ascent pack, there are a number of different ways to do this, and I really appreciate the versatility here. The first option here is like I have it set up. You can run the rifle on the outside of the pack using the attachment points right here on the outside, these ghost hooks that attach to loops on the outside of the bag. That allows you to adjust the height here. If you're riding a motorbike like I did on my elk hunt, it allows you to keep the butt of that rifle up above the seat and run it on the outside of the pack. Now, keep in mind that does put the weight of your rifle quite a ways away from the frame, and it tends to be more difficult to stabilize the rifle, so you want to make sure it's good and secure doing it that way, but it does work really well in that capacity. Now, if I am going to be hiking around, I like to have that rifle on the side of the pack right next to the frame, because it's just more comfortable. It doesn't sway around as much, especially if you're hiking over bushes and logs and doing all those types of things that you do when you're hiking around. I like to be able to move this over. Initial Ascent makes that possible by lifting up on these ghost hooks. We're basically just going to move this over to the side of the pack. So it was here, we're going to move it over here. So to do that, we've got the strap here. We're going to reattach the ghost hook that was over here And then you're going to take the second ghost hook off entirely. I won't do it right now. And then once that is off, you're going to reattach it here on this stabilizer strap that attaches and stabilizes the hip belt to the frame right there. So that way the weight of that rifle is directly connected to the frame. That is my preferred carry if I'm going to be hiking somewhere. Don't necessarily need quick access to the rifle like I would do if I'm going to be hooking onto the ears of the rifle or of the pack here. That's quicker to get to, but if I'm just wanting to hike somewhere, get somewhere, that is a great way to do that, and it keeps it nice and tight into the frame, keeps that weight off of your shoulder and off of the bag, and puts it right there on the frame for you. And finally, I always take a few of these Initial Ascent pack sacks. They come in a bunch of different sizes, so you can organize the interior of your pack however you want. Take as many or as few as you want, but I love that they have mesh on the outside here and allow them to dry out and ventilate really, really well. So let's say you hit a rainstorm or whatnot, they dry out really quickly for you, which I really appreciate that. Love how lightweight they are as well. Something I always throw on the inside of the pack to help keep things organized. All right, now how it performed in the field. This is the most important part really in any backpack. Preface this with saying you always want to, if possible, try the pack on, any pack, no matter what you're looking at. Try it on for yourself to find what is going to fit you best. But really, most good backpacks out there are going to be adjustable to fit you regardless of your body type. That's not necessarily across the board, but most of the time that's going to be the case. So it's a matter of finding the right adjustments, finding the right size, making sure it's fitted to you properly. I had to do that with this one just a little bit. The pack came to me with the hip belt, or I'm sorry, the lumbar pad adjusted a certain way, and I put over 80 pounds on it. I could start to feel the underneath side here. The pad here would allow me to contact the bottom of the frame, so this just pulls open like that. And so I made a quick adjustment and then put it back on there. Made a couple of adjustments there till I found just the right thing for me, and it worked really, really well. And it's absolutely phenomenal. It carried that 148-pound load with ease, and it was super comfortable. So sometimes you have to make a little adjustment, but that is one thing that's nice about the Initial Ascent packs here, is it does have some variability in what you can do with the lumbar pad. And of course, the harness is easily adjustable, and you want to make sure you get the right size there. One thing that I didn't mention with the frame that Initial Ascent has here is they have a dedicated ladies frame, which is great. It's designed to fit a lady's back and a lady's body better than the men's frame here. Not a lot of pack companies offer that, and it's so something really unique that Initial Ascent offers for the ladies out there. Now, as far as performance notes here, again, like I mentioned, I have packed a bunch of different animals with this in a bunch of different situations. The most recent was this elk hunt that I just came back from. Packed out a bull and put 2 hindquarters of that bull onto this pack, and it carried that 148 pounds extremely well. It was very, very comfortable. I was a little nervous doing that. Obviously, that's more weight than I would typically want to pack, but given that we were testing this pack out in the field that trip, I want to see how that felt in that situation. It did way beyond what I would have expected. It was super stable. There was no sway in the pack. Of walking down, the pack was not going side to side on me at all. The frame didn't curl at all. It was absolutely incredible. Couldn't have asked for more in the way that it carried that heavy load. One thing that I did note is that you do have a little bit more of a rigid feel with this pack than some others out there that say use stays or some combinations of super laterally flexible frames. So there isn't a lot of lateral flexibility. There is some, because in the bottom of this frame, I'm not going to take this all apart, but there is a break down here so that you do have some lateral flexibility, but it's not as laterally flexible as some of the others out on the market. So because of that, it does give you a more rigid feel than some of the others out there. The benefit to that is it carries those heavy loads really well, and it stabilizes heavy loads incredibly well. So you have a little bit of a trade-off there in daily comfort, whereas this is not quite as cushy feeling, as that's the best way I could describe it, as some others on the market. But this other side to that is it does exceptionally well at carrying that heavy load. I haven't used anything that carries a load better than this Initial Ascent. Now, as far as one thing I would like to see changed, I would like to see this tripod pocket here a little bit bigger or a little bit more stretchy. There were times when I had the bag full, particularly, and to go to slide my tripod in here, tripod legs, so I could strap it down, and it was a bit of a tight fit. And you can certainly just put 1 or 2 of your tripod legs in there, and that's going to solve the same issue there. but then you have one potential tripod leg that I found could grab on on a tree limb or whatnot as you're walking by, and then you have a tripod leg sticking out the side of you. So I preferred to put all 3 legs in the pocket, and it was a little bit of a tight fit to do that, depending of course on what tripod you're using. But that would be something to be nice, just be a convenience to have a little bit larger pocket there. Other than that, some user error things that was my fault is not reattaching the lumbar straps here, or the load lifter straps. That's totally my fault, my user error, but it happened a couple of times, and something that would be nice to not have to take those apart to get to the main meat hauling portion of the frame. It's not that big of a deal, but there were a few times where that happened to me. Keep an eye on these buckles in the frame, the way they attach to the frame here. Just because you're always putting the pack down in awkward positions, or grabbing it by one strap, laying it down in different areas, folding the lid over the top and back, and all the things that create awkward angles for these buckles. There were a few times where they started to come out when it was not intended. So you just want to keep an eye on that. Make sure that doesn't pull all the way through. When you're carrying a heavy load, it rarely happened, but something I did notice once in a while. So just make a quick adjustment, grab it, and it pops right back into place. So something to keep an eye on that I did note during use. So overall, my takeaways from the Initial Ascent pack: this is a phenomenal pack. It is as good or better of a load hauler than any pack that I have ever used. That 148-pound load was the most that I've personally ever packed out on an animal, and it was absolutely phenomenal. It was super comfortable. I was really surprised at how comfortable it was. I was expecting to be quite miserable, but it was not that way at all. The bag design is great. I love the lid design. It is a little bit more rigid in its fill on a day-to-day basis, so it's not the most comfortable pack out there on the market as far as day-to-day comfort, but as far as load hauling ability, it is as good as anything out there, and possibly even better. I haven't certainly tried all the packs out there, but it is absolutely phenomenal. They have done a great job in designing this. Couple small tweaks that I mentioned that I would personally make, but that's just me personally. May or may not fit for your specific style of use, but it's a phenomenal pack. They do a great job. They really stand behind their products. They're great guys over there. So go check out the Initial Ascent. If it's something that would interest you, I'll put a link to it down in the description. Drop any questions or comments. Happy to help if I can. Thanks for watching, and we will see you next time.